Let's just kick things off with a quote that gets right to the heart of everything we're about to talk about. It frames this whole topic not as some new tech fad, but as a question of ultimate control. It really asks you to picture a world where your own money isn't really yours, but a privilege that someone, somewhere, can just decide to revoke in a blink. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving deep into a technology that could completely change our relationship with money. We're talking about central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs for short. And this isn't just a small upgrade, This is a potential shift so fundamental it could redraw the lines between you, your bank, and the government itself. Okay, here's our game plan. We're going to start with a real-world event that made this whole abstract idea very, very real. Then, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the tech, what I like to call the code in your cash. From there, we'll look at the two big competing visions for this thing. Is it a utopia or a dystopia? Then, we'll zoom out to see the global race that's already happening, and we'll finish up with the one big question that all of this leaves us with. To really get what's on the line here, we're not going to start with some dry technical definition. No, our story begins with something that actually happened. A real-world event that took this whole debate out of theory and slammed it right down into reality for hundreds of people. So, I want you to picture this. It's Ottawa, Canada. It's the dead of winter, 2022. There's a massive protest movement, which you probably remember as the Freedom Convoy, and it's brought the entire capital city to a grinding halt. Now, it started as a protest over vaccine mandates, but it morphed into something much bigger, and it triggered a government response that, well, nobody saw coming. And this is where things get really serious. In a move that was pretty much unheard of, the Canadian government used something called the Emergencies Act. And with this power, they went around the courts and just froze the bank accounts of over 200 people who were tied to the protests. And we're not just talking about the big organizers here. This net swept up everyday people who had donated as little as $25. Just try to imagine that for a second. You wake up one morning and you're completely locked out of your life savings. No court order, no hearing, no chance to argue your case. Your ability to pay your rent, to buy food, to put gas in your car, it's just gone. Your entire financial life switched off just like a light switch. It was a stark reminder of how fragile our access to our own money can be. So Canada was a huge wake-up call. It showed the kind of power that already exists in our current financial system. But even that move required the government to work with private banks to get it done. But what if? What if that power could be made more direct, more absolute, more instantaneous? Well, that brings us to the technology that's at the center of this whole conversation. So what in the world is a CBDC? It's so important to get this right. This is not just another payment app like Venmo or PayPal. Those apps are just moving money that already exists inside a commercial bank. A CBDC is totally different. Think of it as an actual digital dollar or a digital euro that's issued and controlled directly by the central bank. The money in your bank account right now is technically an IOU from a private bank. A CBDC would be a direct IOU from the government itself. It's like having a bank account directly with the Federal Reserve. Now, this slide is key because it cuts through so much confusion. You hear people mention CBDCs and Bitcoin in the same sentence all the time, but they are fundamentally, philosophically, polar opposites. A CBDC is totally centralized. The government has the final say on everything. Bitcoin is decentralized. It's run by a network of users with no one in charge. A CBDC is designed to be fully traceable, meaning the government can see every single transaction you make. Bitcoin is pseudo-anonymous. The transactions are public, but they're not automatically tied to your real-world identity. They just couldn't be more different. And that total, centralized control opens the door to a feature that is completely alien to the cash in your pocket: programmability. And this, my friends, is the real game changer. This means the ability to literally build rules into the money itself. The money stops being a passive tool and becomes an active participant in every transaction. So what does that actually look like? Well, imagine the government sends you stimulus money, but it has an expiration date. If you don't spend it by Friday, poof, it's gone. Or what if they could block you from buying certain things, like too many sugary drinks or more than a certain amount of gasoline? They could even automate taxes, so the second you buy something, the government's cut is taken out in real time. It's a level of microcontrol that has simply never, ever been possible before. With that kind of power on the table, you have to ask yourself, why would governments want this? And this is where the debate just splits right down the middle into two completely different views of the future. The people arguing for CBDCs aren't talking about control. They're talking about progress, efficiency, and building a better financial system for everybody. And look, proponents paint a really compelling picture. They talk about a financial system that finally catches up to the 21st century. Imagine transactions that are instant, not in 3 business days, but right now, 24/7. They also talk about financial inclusion, giving the millions of people who don't have a bank account a way to safely store and send money with just a basic phone. And for the economy as a whole, they argue it would give governments better tools to fight financial crime and steer the economy through a crisis. But, and it is a massive but, for every one of those potential benefits, critics see a huge, potentially catastrophic risk. This quote from Congressman Tom Emmer just boils that fear down to its absolute core. See, the argument against CBDCs isn't about transaction speed. It's about surveillance on a scale that's hard to even comprehend. We're talking about the complete end of financial privacy. The simple act of paying for something in cash, anonymously, could become a thing of the past. Every single purchase you make, every coffee, every book, every donation, could be logged in a permanent, searchable government database. A complete record of your life told through your transactions. And listen, this isn't just some science fiction movie plot. China is already testing its own CBDC, the digital yuan, with millions of its citizens. And from everything we can see, it seems to be designed for exactly this kind of real-time monitoring. In fact, many experts see it as the financial enforcement arm of their social credit system. It's a powerful new tool for state control, and it's happening right now. So, as you can probably guess, this has moved way beyond an academic debate. It is now a highly charged political issue. And while countries like the US are debating it, the rest of the world is moving fast, kicking off a global race to define the future of money. You can draw a direct line from what happened in Canada to what's happening in the US Congress today. Those financial freezes were the catalyst. They sparked fiery debates and led to actual bills being introduced, like the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, which is designed to prevent the Federal Reserve from ever creating a digital dollar like this. But while the US is locked in this debate, we have to look at the bigger picture. The rest of the world is not waiting. The momentum for this technology is huge, and it's growing every day. Right now, over 100 countries are either exploring, developing, or actively testing their own CBDCs. And this chart just puts that into perspective. We're not talking about a handful of small countries here. The nations that are moving forward with CBDCs represent over 95% of the world's entire GDP. The global financial system is shifting under our feet, and the vast majority of the world's economic power is already in the race. Which brings us right to the final, unavoidable question that this technology puts in front of every single one of us. It's a fundamental choice, a choice between efficiency and freedom, between convenience and control. What kind of future are we trying to build? This table really just boils the whole thing down, doesn't it? On one hand, you have the promise of huge gains, a hyper-efficient system, the convenience of instant payments, maybe even more security against crime. But on the other hand, what we stand to lose is just profound. Our financial freedom, our basic right to privacy, and ultimately control over our own lives. So, as technology and government power get closer and closer, we all have to decide, in this new world with this new kind of power, who should have the ability to press delete on your money? That right there is the unavoidable question.